it's Jean from Inky Owl Studio, and welcome. This is the last of a four-part series that I'm doing a tutorial on how I make my recipe keepers. And if you've missed the other three, I'm going to link down below the playlist for the other three parts. And yeah, and please consider subscribing because the next video I do on this will be a flip through of the completed journal, or recipe keeper, I should say. So we have gotten to this point where we have the cover has been made, of course, and our pockets, or the inside with all the pockets, has been completed. And I've gone through and I've decorated, put down decorative paper throughout here with the pockets, so that's all finished. And I like to finish this part before I glue it in because I find it easier. Not necessary, but it's easier. And I'll probably go back and start putting some embellishments in here once I get the journal completed. If you are going to add journaling papers, and I think I had showed you how to make space in between the pages here, this is the time you'll want to sew them in. I'm not doing it with this particular journal, but sewing in them, you would sew it in like any other signature, but you would start in the back so that you end up tying them off in the back rather than tying it off inside here. It would just be a cleaner look. It's not structurally necessary, but that's how I did mine when I did do them. Is I would start sewing in, putting the thread in from this direction so that I could finish from this direction and close it off. But as I said, I'm just making it without the journaling papers. And this is a two-step process to put the pockets into the cover. And the first step of it is, first of all, is always make sure you've got your orientation right. Your cover is the way it should be, and it matches the orientation of your inside. So it's sometimes surprisingly easy to reverse those. So the first part is you're just going to glue this part here to not the flaps, but just this part in here to the spine. And I use Fabri-Tac for that. This is not the bottle. I want to get the other blue bottle because it comes out faster. You could probably use, whoa, it really does come out fast, doesn't it? You could probably use 3-in-1. You could use any of those Beacon products would work really well for that. Yep, it really does come out faster, doesn't it? Maybe faster than I thought it was going to come out. Okay, so we'll just go through here. I'll just make sure that I apply it quite liberally, as you can see, because I really want that to stay in. And now we're going to put it into just that spine area. So you'll have to, and I know you probably cannot see this exactly, but you'll want to put it in the middle of that spine area. And because you're working with Fabri-Tac, you can move it around in the very beginning. So once you've got your border here, you're leaving like just 1/4 of an inch on those two places there. Let me clean this up here for a minute. Then what you need to do is to take your get my hand out of the way, to take a bone folder or something and start pressing down from the middle these places in here where the pages have a little bit of space. So that's like every 2 pages about. And you want to make sure you get that pressed down nicely. Alrighty. And then you'll want to go and do that going the other direction. Yeah, And I hope, I know it's kind of awkward, but I'm thinking you're probably getting the gist of what I'm doing here. There we go. So that everything underneath there is lying as flat as you can make it. Okay. And of course it's a little awkward for me on camera to do this. I would normally be standing over this, but I'm thinking I've got it just about right there. Now you want it to dry, but you want it to dry with the pages up like this. So what I do is I get something to set against here and set against here, and then I just let it dry like that. And it's important for that to be, I would say, fully dried, and depending on where you live, it may take 2 or 3 hours, it may take overnight, but it is good to have that very dry. Alrighty, the inside has been dried along the spine. I let it sit overnight, so everything, you know, if you look along here, everything attaches well. If it hasn't, then you can poke in a little bit of glue there, but it should be all just fine inside there. Now what we're going to do is we are going to glue down these 2 flaps here. And of course we're going to need our fabric tack here, and you're also going to need a bone folder because we want to get put a crease right here where this fold line is going to be there. So I usually take my glue. This is the one that really comes out fast. Here we go. Put it down inside this area. You can see there's and I just glue all of this down. There we go. And now I'm going to run my bone folder right down like this, and then look for that gap where the cover meets the spine. Let's see here. And I'm just going to put this in there and then come down and glue the rest of it down. Okay. So I've started like a little score line right there. Okay, you don't have to make a real deep one, you just want to start a divot right in there. Okay. And I see that I need a little bit more extra glue down here. And you can always come back and put more glue in missing places later on. Let's see, here we go, right along in there. Okay. And we'll turn around. Now we're not going to fold this yet until it gets a little bit more dry. All right. And just come in here. And let's see, the score line's right about here. Oops. Right about there. Is that score line? And I see. All right. Now that I've done that, I'm again going to let this dry. And you probably don't have to let it dry as long as you did the spine. You know, I let it sit for like a couple hours. That's kind of what I do, just like this. And again, I put 2 things in between, or at each side of the insides, and let it dry that way. All right, while that is drying, we're going to make the inside of the cover, and here's what I'm working on now, and that's this part right here. That's going to cover up everything that we've been doing on the inside. And it's also made out of chipboard, and it really provides a very hard, very, unbendable cover. And so I've cut two pieces here, and these are cut at 8 1/4 by 6 5/8, just a little bit smaller than the cover of the journal itself. And I just happen to have black chipboard. It, comes in different colors. And 2 sheets of decorative paper, and you'll want at least 1 inch border all the way around. Now, to glue this together, you can use glitter glue. You can use, you could use Fabri-Tac, but it doesn't, it is going to be wrapped around. Alrighty, that's good, and I'm going to put this right in the middle of that. All right. Okay, there we go there. Now this does have a, a pattern to it, so yeah, I'm pretty close on it there. Tried to line it up here. Yeah, looks pretty good. Okay, now we can start wrapping around this section, and I'm going to get my stylus pen, and I'm going to come down here and put like a little score along each of these sides, just to help the paper to wrap over a little better. Okay, now I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to miter the corners out a little bit. So I'm going to come up and miter like that. And when I miter, I am leaving just like 1/8 of an inch of paper beyond the corner. So let me draw that. What you might want to do with a ruler, if you are new to doing it, new to mitering, is you can put your ruler down and just leave like that 1/8 of an inch between the corner and your ruler, and draw a line right across like that. Right, and then you can cut across that way. Ready? Now the way I cut it is I didn't put the angles in quite as sharply as that, so it would have looked a little more like this here. So it doesn't matter either way. So let me just finish it out here by doing that. Yeah, the key is you do not want to cut right next to that corner. You want to leave just a little bit. Not too much though. It's sort of like Goldilocks, And then when you wrap it around, you can kind of like pinch in first and wrap these two together and pinch it in like that. All right, and that's what we'll be doing. So I'm just going to go and crease it first of all, and probably a bone folder would be really good to use for that. Just get in there, and I'm going to go down like this, crease her in. And start gluing them down. Usually make sure I have a nice bead of glue right there on the edge, right along inside that cavity there, a little bit. Alrighty, and I'll just sort of work that down over. Now we're going to be gluing this down, so this shouldn't be too much of a problem. I sort of kind of do that, kind of work it down with a little bit of glue as well. And sometimes you don't have anything hardly to work down at all. There we go. And you just want to make sure that it all looks nice on these edges, and you can always kind of tap them in a little bit, like so. Alrighty, so that is one section of the inside of the cover of your journal. So yeah, I'll finish the rest of it off camera, but that is how you make these two. The flaps here have dried, and now it's time to make that crease a little deeper. And so I slowly come through here and I just work it up closed. It doesn't take a whole lot. Oh, I might be off screen. I am so sorry. I just encourage it to fold up again. Okay, and just bring it up slowly. Now the fabric fix is a flexible glue, so that's why I like using it for this. The other glue, the glitter glue is not quite as flexible. So there we go. And then there is our cover is all done here. Now for the inside here too, and I'm going to put a rubber band around these pages so that they don't flop all over the place. I'm just gonna do this here, keep them. So eventually what we'll be doing, of course, is we're going to be gluing in our panels here. But and you can just go ahead and glue the panel in as it is, right? Just like this. It looks fine. But I like to add a strip of cloth down there. And I think it further protects the seam even more so. It gives it even more flexibility there. But I like to put down a strip of cloth here so that when you put in your panel, it has sort of this uniform look all the way around. I mean, I think that's kind of cool. But, you know, is it absolutely necessary? No, not really. So I take my strip, that's about 1 inch. I determine where I want the strip to lie. So I, you know, I think I want, and sometimes you have a pattern that you have to follow. Like if you had stripes or something, you would probably need to match it up a little bit. But what I'm thinking of here is just what is aesthetically pleasing, you know, to my eye. And so I'm going to be laying this right up against this page in that crease there. And I usually cut off any kind of little threads that might be, you know, kind of make this more of a smooth edge, so it's not, you know, like this over here. It's got pretty smooth on it. There we go. I'll just trim these off. Now I use Mod Podge to attach it, and any kind of glue that works like a Mod Podge or a decoupage would, I'm sure, work just fine. and I take it straight out of the container. Let me get my, yeah, I have to hold on to this, plus get my face together. It's a little awkward. So here we go. All right. Okay. And I'm just liberally, you know, apply my Mod Podge down here. And you don't have to be too concerned what happens in this area, because after all, it's going to be covered with our panel. So let me just get it good and glued down. Now I do see that there's maybe a little place here where, you know, it didn't get glued down totally. I'm going to put just a little bit in there. You know, just a little bit. Whatever. Alright, so I got that. So again, working with cloth, you're going to need a good amount of glue because of the absorption. And I will place this top just beyond where the cardstock is, just a little bit beyond the top up there. Oop. Hey buddy, did you see somebody at the front door? Yep, he did. So we'll just come in here and go over it again, right? And let that glue absorb into the cloth there really well. So we want it glued down, right? Yep, it's very easy, very simple. Well, let me come down here, and probably should have cut this before I started. It would have been a little easier, but let me just snip this off a little bit more. There, that's about right. And I'll just turn this around, and we will get that glued down. So it's very simple to do this, and I do think that the end results looks a little bit, you know, looks professional. Although I don't know, either way, I'm sure it'll be fine. And of course, you'll want to let this dry with your without your pages touching down there naturally. So you may have to let it dry one at a time, or you could set something here just to make sure that they don't flop into it. But yeah, so you let this dry, and I will probably it doesn't I don't believe it has to be absolutely totally dry, but it has to be dry to the touch. So you could use your hair dryer probably, or something of that nature if you were in a hurry. But I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to complete the other one like this, and then we'll move on to putting down the covers. Alrighty, it is dry on the inside, at least to the touch, although it will probably be overnight before it's fully cured. So now we're going to finish up our journal. There's different ways, of course, you can use to make a closure. You can choose not to do closure. You know, that is a legitimate one, especially if you're going to be putting it on the shelf. It probably doesn't need a closure. You can use a hitch post, and I do believe these are Tim Holtz. I got these on Amazon. A hitch post closure is what I believe they call them. And you just put a hole in here, and then you've got this little screw that comes up over here and screws it in. And then on the opposite side, you are going to put an eyelet down here and have a piece of elastic, wrap in a piece of elastic there, and bring it up over that little hitch that you would put in there. So that is a way of doing it. The only thing I don't like about that one is that this little guy does pop up, and if you were to put this on the shelf, with other books or whatever, you get hung up on that right there. But if you're not putting it on the shelf and you're storing it someplace different, that might be an option. There's always putting a ribbon, or I've got some seam binding here, or you could use sari silk or whatever, and attaching it, perhaps putting decoration down the spine, attaching it there, and then tying it closed this way. Some people like that because when they open it up, they don't have the tie there. And then there is the way that I'm going to do it today, and that is I'm just going to put a tie in on each side, and glue it in there, and then just, tie it up and close it there. So those are just some options for you. It, whatever works is fine, and you might have some other ways of closing this journal that you like. Now, if you've noticed, probably there's warping going on in your cover, and we're going to fix all that, so it's not a big worry. I'm going to first of all put in my tie here. Put it out. Gotta remember how fast this one comes out. Okay. And we'll just stick this in here and get that glued down. And let me get my ruler. Yeah, probably would have been better have done this before I glued it down, right? Nope, it's good. Yeah, it's good right there. Now, what I like about doing it this way is if the recipient doesn't want it, they can cut it out. They can just snip it off and not have it at all. And for some people, that might be how they like it. I don't know. Now that once that's in there, we're going to be gluing this on to here. And when we place it down, we'll just make sure that it is centered, inside there. I have distressed around it. Now is a good time to do that. And just, this is not rocket science for sure. Just putting down the glue, getting it fairly close to the edge. That looks like good coverage. And make sure everything is up the right direction on all ends here. And we'll just put this in here just like this. Okay, and get it. And pressing down on it. Now, after I do the opposite side, which I will go ahead and do off camera, it's very, very important, critical, in fact, that you place heavy books over each side. So you have this one glued down, that one's ready to go. Heavy books on each side, like a good stack of them. And make sure your surface is hard too. And just leave it there overnight. In fact, I sometimes give it even more than overnight because I live in Florida. That's very important. I can't stress it enough, because that will take care of the bending. It'll give you a very nice, hard, straight cover. So that basically wraps up the tutorial. I'm so happy that you came along this far, and I realize that many of you are probably going to put this information and kind of put it in your to-do list, and that it does take some time. I'm not going to lie, but it is a very nice, sturdy product when you do get done and finished with it. And I will be doing a flip through of this one and the other one when I finish doing the last part of the decorations on the inside. And eventually, yeah, so that should happen in a few weeks. So thank you so much for viewing and for sticking by me. I hope this was helpful, and I hope maybe it gave you ideas about maybe how to do other things. So you have a great day, and we will see you later. Bye.